#1 Ohio State at Wisconsin. Marco, what should bettors be looking at?
Well, bettors are going to obviously be looking. We have a new #1, added pressure to Ohio State, but I was looking at Wisconsin this game, but there's been a big line move early in the week, and I think we've lost the value on Wisconsin.
All right, so it was 6, and
It's
now
down.
taping on Wednesday, it's 4?
It's 4.
So why, initially at 6, why were you looking at Wisconsin?
Well, we've talked about Ohio State numerous times this year. Ohio State is a team that's fundamentally sound, that generally plays their games, that they play not to lose rather than playing to win. They get themselves in a position to win the game, and that's not good when you're laying points. You need some separation. I think Wisconsin playing at home, a night game at Wisconsin. This is a rare night game. They don't play a lot of night games at Wisconsin. And considering that this team has won 40 of their last 44 home games, and you're getting points, that's very attractive on the surface with Wisconsin.
Now, the key point is the drunk bettor, the guy that I see playing cards at the Bellagio, that when he looks at his ticket, he's having trouble focusing. 6-4 doesn't matter. He likes Wisconsin. But really, likely that's where the value was, is if you're going to hit 55, 56%, which is the best that professional bettors can do in the long haul, which is a huge win over the long haul. You can become a millionaire hitting 55 or 56%. It's going to be 2.5 points, and it varies based upon the key numbers that it's moving through. But getting 4, it's probably not a stretch to say +4, if you hit 51%, a +6, you're going to hit 55 or 56%. So potentially the value's gone.
Absolutely, it's gone. But I'm going to throw something else out, and this might be something to be good for added conversation in the forums with this game. The fact that this game opened at 6 and Wisconsin looks like an attractive home dog, and the history with Ohio State, do you think the quick movement, we always talk, the automatic thought would be this was the sharps that jumped all over this number. This is a prime example because it's a nationally televised game. It's a #1 ranked team that I really think come game day, you might see some buyback on Ohio State because
But let's talk about this now. I agree with everything, or I'm hearing what you're saying, but let's define what buyback is. If buyback is from the wise guys, then it's certainly not going to be a middle. 6-4 isn't a middle that they're dying to get. What it may be is what you would call a setup. And what a setup is they know they're going to be betting Ohio State all along. They bet 10 units, whatever that is, 10,000, 100,000 early to bet 50 units later at the better number. Here's why I don't think that's the case, is because Ohio State is such a public. Usually when we say, is this a legitimate position, these early moves, we know the early moves are sharp. The question is, are they genuine and legitimate, or are they setups for either a buyback or whatever else? And my point is that Ohio State is the likely public side here. This is the #1 team in the country with a huge fan base. Maybe because Ohio State hasn't done great in big games, though I've got some stats that really question that premise. Maybe you could say they're not going to be as backed as they typically might be. But still, it's going to be hard-pressed to say come game day when you go to sportsbookspy.com and look at the bet percents. I'm going to be very surprised. I'd make you a major bet right now that Ohio State has over 50%. Do you want to bet that?
I agree that they'll end up with over 50%. But I really do think that the Sharps wanted to. I don't think they ever thought this game would get to 7, because I know you say Ohio State's public, but their history of the way they don't cover as favorites.
Clearly they don't think that the game was going to get to 7, because if they thought it would get to 7, they would have waited to bet it at 7. So what you're saying is they took an early position on a dog, which is unusual, but usually a sign of a genuine position. So I agree they didn't think it was going to go to 7, but it doesn't mean they were looking to buy. They're not looking to buy, not only get a middle, but bet more on a Ohio State, because there's too much risk that the public gets involved quickly on Friday or Saturday and bet this thing up in a way that they can't, that the 2-point move that they generated through their action, it could get back to 6 come game day. But how is that an advantage for the Sharps?
Well, let me put it to you this way. If I would have had the foresight to break this game down when it was at 6 and grab Wisconsin at 6, I would be running to the book to grab Ohio State at 4 because of the history of Ohio State in close games. I would love having 4, 5, and 6.
5's such a dead. Listen, listen. We defer to you on things when it comes to Midland and when it comes to the mathematics of this. 4, 5, and 6 certainly, if you're laying 110 both ways, isn't some big negative expectation. It probably has a slight positive expectation, though 5 is such a dead number, but it's certainly not something that you're going to risk a lot of money on to set up. You got a point or two of positive, or 1 percentage point or 2 of positive expectation at the most.
And a team that will settle for field goals in this game, 4 and 6 are workable numbers.
I mean, listen, well, how's this sound? Is the mathematics of it just, I guess the question becomes is if you knew that if you bet 6 and you knew it was going to go to 4, would it make sense? Absolutely. Like I said, I think there's probably a 1 or 2, and again, I haven't run the numbers, there's a slight positive expectation of this. But you have no idea when you knock that thing down to 4 is how long it's going to stay at 4. And if anything, if I asked you right now, what do you think if the Sharps don't get involved? You already said that you think that Ohio State's going to get more than, when I say don't get involved, the Sharps don't get involved for a second set of bets. Let's say they've got their Wisconsin, they don't do anything else. We don't know what they're going to do, but let's assume that. You already said you think Ohio State's going to get more than 50% of the action, correct?
Correct.
So most likely the line's going to move up. So the question is, if the Sharps were going to get, it's probably not going to go to 3.5.
No, I agree with that.
So
100%.
if the Sharps are going to get involved, they would have got involved already. They've got their 4. Right? So if anything, the trend from here is probably up. But if it seems like the Sharps would have gotten involved before, I think if anything, and we talk about line predictions, if you do like Wisconsin, you wait till game. And remember, 4 is a semi-key number. 4.5 is key. If you can get 4.5 to 5.5, doesn't really matter. If you can get back to 4.5, there's still maybe there's still some value on Wisconsin. So that's maybe a question for you as the handicapper. Is at 4.5 do you like Wisconsin?
At 4.5, I have this game. I actually have it.
Give us your projection.
I have it as Ohio State winning 27-23. I have it on 4.
So, all right. So 4.5 is not enough value laying 11
No,
to 10.
I'm not. To me, half a point, no. But one thing I will say to you: if we're talking about a Pac-10 game where they're going to go up and down the field, like in Oregon, I agree with you 100%. I would not be that thrilled about the 4, 5, 6. But when you're in a tighter game, the defense is going to be a premium.
But the total's 49, Marco.
RJ, we can sit here and disagree all day on it.
But what I'm saying, stop. This isn't a subjective thing, in my opinion. The total represents the projection of the scoring in the game. Now, do you think the total is 7 or 10 points off?
I have it right. My projection is right where the total is.
So you think there's going to be 50 points scored in the game?
But I think this game is going to be a game that is going to come down to some field goals and some defensive stands late in the game.
But it's a 50-point. If you should love the under if it's going to be a defensive game.
We argue, but more often than not, I'm proved out. I proved out that what I'm saying is right. I really believe that these are live numbers with this Ohio because of the way they play. They don't play to put teams away. You get a team up, you've got the 7-point game, kick a field goal, go up 10. I just think Wisconsin will be able to hang around, and the numbers are going to be live.
No, and that's a separate matter. Is if you think a game's going to be close, that's a paradox that has happened recently in the last few years with the line tightening. The NFL line especially gets tighter and tighter. So Jimmy Vaccaro, a guy I read all the time, he just wrote an article this week explaining, is the NFL even beatable anymore, even with the best batters? These lines are so tight, is it even beatable? And some people say yes, some people say no, but the fact is the lines are getting tighter. On one hand, that's bad for the side, the 11 to 10 better, the guy that's betting the side. Mm-hmm. But if you're teasing stuff in the NFL, the tighter the line is,
the better it is.
The better it is because you're gaining 7 points away or 6 points away from that line. So if you tell me you think that this is going to be a nip and tuck game, and that falling from 4 to 6 is a viable, is more likely, because if you thought Ohio State was going to win by 21, 4 and 6 is not as valuable. You think it's going to be especially tight game. I think that's a valid point. If I agree or not, it doesn't matter. It's a valid point. If a game is going to be close to the number, then having numbers in the middle around the number is a good thing. Agreed. What you said was different, though, and maybe we agree on that, but we disagree on this, is it's also a premise that the lower scoring a game is, the more valuable every point is.
I agree with that point, yes.
And I thought, and that's what it came out as, is you saying it's going to be a defensive game, and that these 4, 5, and 6 would be so valuable. And my point is that we know what the scoring is going to be. 50 is the projection, and that's not a low-scoring game. That's every point not as valuable as a 33. Like if you're playing a game in the NFL, the total's 33, right, and you want to tease games with lower totals more.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe the word I should have said is that the identity of Ohio State over the last several years is more conducive to this game being a single-digit game.
Agree, and I would agree with that. All right, well, I tell you, a lot of interesting stuff. And, I think one of the things that's really illustrative about this conversation with the wise guy stuff, it's not science. It's really art. There is no, like we always say, there's no table of cigar chomping wise guys that's deciding, okay, let's bet it from 6 down to 4, and then right when it's 4, we're going to fire here. No, they're competing with each other. They're like poker players playing against each other, and they're trying to beat each other and misdirection, etc. And it just strikes me that that it doesn't matter who's right about our conversation as much as thinking it through logically in individual cases like this will help you think the next game through. And I think it's something that two sharp people about this stuff can disagree and really both sides be valid because it's not science.
Absolutely.
Okay, couple quick points, and we've gone real long here, but this has been fun, is I'll make it really quick. 2 quick points. Ohio State 8-0 on the road against top 25 teams. 8-0 straight up against top 25 teams. That's awesome. They're 21-6 ATS on the road. This is a professional level team that travels well. Lastly, Wisconsin, even though Ohio State won, Wisconsin dominated last year. A 22-8 first down advantage for Wisconsin, and they almost doubled Ohio State's yardage. But Ohio State won the game, which they typically do. All right, good stuff. Now it's your turn to continue this interesting conversation in the comments section with me and Marco. And next up, we're moving to the NFL with my free pick of the year on the Cowboys and the Vikings.